This was back on April 22nd, 2022. Today is April 24th, 2022. Kim Jean's video was April 21st, 2022. And Steve Benoon's video, I'm not getting a date, but it was just today. Watched it today, which is April 24th, 2022. This is about Israel ditching dollar for Chinese yuan, like the stick, I think, the yuan. So back on the 22nd, I was talking about Kim Jean.
So here, you earned it. And then just that energy alone shows how you're able to change people's hearts from being greedy and hard-hearted to having their heart hardened and secured.
Is more immorality. Sin grows. So it doesn't matter if you make everybody comfortable. It won't change the fact that if there is immorality, there will still be detriments to our society.
Really? You can predict the future? Have you ever been uncomfortable? Do you know what it feels like? Probably not. Because if you've always been a rich young ruler, you never had to do without. I just think maybe you don't really want to relinquish the riches. Didn't Christ tell you that, or didn't you ask, were you the one that asked him? You're like, what can I do to get to the kingdom of heaven? And he told you to go sell everything you have, and then you'll have a place in heaven. You're like, nah, not gonna do it.
Doesn't change that fact. Never changes that fact. Let's look at another passage here. We're going to look at Matthew chapter 20. Matthew chapter 20. Accuse them of being shockers. The idea is we're hitting that main point. When you take the money by force from somebody to give it to other people. Now, is that biblical? Actually,
Charles, a friend of mine, sent me a tweet today letting me know that Israel is dumping the U.S. dollar in favor of the Chinese yuan. Now, how many of you guys remember me telling you, what, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, Israeli intelligence was already telling me, stop speaking against China. You know, I did the, it's actually back, I guess, in 2018.
That's anti-biblical,
Yes.
and that's even illegal.
Yes, it's biblical. What did Robin Hood do? He stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Was that a sin? Did he actually steal anything? Or was it hidden knowledge that he stole? Like, because it was inside of a vault. Is it biblical to have people running a scam because God told them, I need someone, which one of you are gonna lie? I need a liar. And then you stand up and I'll do it, because you're gonna tell people that the dollar's gonna collapse and you need to invest into this Bitcoin stuff and this cryptocurrency, and then everybody swaps all their money into it, all the rich millionaires, because you're gonna tell people that the dollar's gonna collapse and you need to invest in.
And yeah, the dollar will collapse. And, you know, what can I say? Israel's buying the Chinese yuan.
I do thee what? No wrong. Didst not thou agree with me for a what? Penny. Because that's the terms on what you signed up for this job.
This one.
Into this Bitcoin stuff and this cryptocurrency, and then everybody swaps all their money into it, all the rich millionaires, and then you know, the one running the scam, that it's not gonna, actually what's gonna collapse is the cryptocurrency Bitcoin, and all the money that you gave into it, you're now not gonna have. So is that stealing from the rich and giving to the poor? Is that forcing people to pay up, or are you just lying to them in order to get them to relinquish their funds in order to distribute wealth evenly throughout? Now, it's not to everybody, but it starts over here, and when you hand me the money, I distribute it equally to those that first and foremost, deserve it. So even if you're a liar, but it justifies the means, well then by all means, liars.
And yeah, the dollar will collapse.
Just to verify it, because it does. Okay, that's why it doesn't have a date. It's not only 19 hours ago, which means that was on the 23rd, because today's the 24th, around 8 o'clock or so, 8, 9 o'clock at night yesterday. And then Kim's video is April 21st. So I'll put these in line here, where this one is there. It's 21st, and I'm clicking from left to right, 22nd, and then 23rd.
Yeah, the dollar will collapse.
You're going to tell people that the dollar's going to collapse and you need to invest into this Bitcoin stuff and this,
Or whatever it is that you're going to fall for.
You know, what can I say? Israel's buying the Chinese yuan. I guess they're doing that so the Chinese will get stuck with all the dollars. I don't quite understand why. They're also buying Russian rubles.
See, so there
by the way.
is a voluntary action on this part. There is no force in here. Did you notice that?
Yeah. They're voluntarily going to hand over their money. And it looks like China will be exactly what Steve Bannon said China would be.
Just so you know. So think about all that. Stephen Bannon here with Israeli News Live, being all a part of that New World Order kind of garbage. And of course I asked the intelligence people in Israel, what's the deal with me speaking against China?
this cryptocurrency and in every pocket into the house of God to distribute the wealth evenly, then go for it. Because if you fall for it, that's on you. You believed it.
High lawful, if there's such a term. It is not biblical, and it is even illegal. Look at Matthew chapter 20, verse 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. Okay, so here's a business owner, he's hiring workers. And when he had
There's a business owner that hired people.
There's nothing mandatory or something forced right here. It's both sides who agreed to it. Take that thine is and go thy way, and I will give unto this last, even as unto thee. Is it not what? Lawful for me to do what I will with what? My own. See?
In fact, I was bringing out how the Chinese didn't even have anybody to bid against, and they were able to get the contract for building the military port there in Haifa.
That was back then. They didn't have anybody to bid against. Now they do.
After I made up a huge ruckus over that, Israel made them bid on the one for Ashkelon, but they didn't have much competition, and they got the contract for that as well. Golan, but they didn't. After I made up a huge ruckus over that, Israel made them bid on the one for Ashkelon, but they didn't have much competition, and they got the contract for that as well.
Let me get to Kim here. All right, in this very first clip, Kim, hi Kim, Jean, Dr. Kim, it's nice to meet you.
The Chinese didn't even have anybody to bid against, and they were able to get the contract for building the military port there in Haifa.
Meaning in his own spirit, how Cain had already killed Abel.
Okay, so remember Cain, he already murdered his brother Abel, and what did the Lord deal with Cain? The text reads here, this is Cain whining at
So this is Cain whining. He's talking about himself.
verse 14. Behold, so basically, look, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth. Look, Lord, you drove me away today from out of this civilization, out of this world, out of this earth.
You know, June seems to be a good month because back in June 2019, I started to head in Jonathan Kleck's direction, and then something about that month, it just seems to bring life and awareness.
Earth. So notice that he's speaking from the emotions here. It's metaphorical. And notice, and from thy face shall I be hid. So he's basically saying that, Lord, you've hid me away from your face. You just annihilated me out of existence from this earth. I mean, that's what you've done. So when he means by this is pretty interesting. He mentions that he is driven from this day from the earth, and he's going out his own way. Announce a curse upon Cain, because why? He broke his law. We saw at verse 12, which is pretty obvious, where the Lord pronounced a curse upon Cain, because why? His law. So there was something that he broke here. So powerful that he's in control no matter what free choice you make. See, we're a little bit more Calvinist than the Calvinists. You notice that there?
Calvin, I hear you, buddy.
We don't believe God is so weak.
We don't believe God.
Oh, I can't control anything when people are running in their free will, so I have to make them a robot. No, the Lord's not that weak. All right, let's go to Genesis.
He's not that weak.
Genesis 4. All right, I'm not doing apologetics on Calvinism. All right, let's go to Genesis.
Well, you sure love Calvin, huh?
Genesis 4.
After I made a huge ruckus over that, Israel made them bid on the one for Ashkelon, but they didn't have much competition, and they got the contract for that as well. All of this part of that Silk Road Initiative, but I was told.
So, how literal is this? San Jose is on the western side of the United States. Being the Western king. Well, let's see. For shits and giggles will come against him. Therefore, he will be disheartened and will return and become enraged at the Holy Covenant, the true Holy Covenant, and take action. Because if you're flipping this around, being the good guy, being against the holy, the holy covenant, standing in the holy place, and take action. So he will come back and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. Basically, it's like, hey, here's your money. Here you go. Here's it for everybody that voluntarily, as Kim said.
What the Bible says. Verse 13, but he answered one of them and said, friend, I do thee what? No wrong. Individual's right on who he pays, on how much he wants to pay them.
So he takes action. He will show regard for those who forsake the Holy Covenant. Forces from him will arise, desecrate the sanctuary. They will pollute the sanctuary strength and shall take away the daily sacrifice or the regular sacrifice. They shall take away the regular burnt offering. People have said this is Christ, but it's not necessarily in just one interpretation of it, because a burnt offering, he shall take away the burnt offering. Christ isn't a burnt offering. Matter of fact, it's the opposite. Other people get burnt from the word that comes from the mouth of Christ. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation. They shall place the abomination that makes it desolate. By smooth words he will turn to godliness those who act wickedly toward the covenant. And then this just sounds like, okay, so if you're talking about Christ and his smooth words, like the 5 smooth stones, those words, he will turn to, oh, godlessness. Godlessness. He will turn to godlessness those who act wickedly toward God. I read that wrong before. I said godliness. So yeah, back to the Antichrist, the little horn. By smooth words he will turn to godlessness those who act wickedly toward the covenant. But the people who know their God will display strength to take action. I'm glad I read that again because I did a whole study thinking that this said godliness, trying to fit. Is this a good guy here? How can it? Or is this like a Antichrist? But the people who know their God will display strength to take action. Those who have insight among the people will give understanding to many. Yet they will fall by the sword and flame, by captivity and by plunder for many days. Now, when they have fallen, they will be granted a little help, and many will cling to them with flatteries. Some of those who have insight will fall in order to refine, purge, and make them pure until the end time, because it is still to come at the appointed time. Then the king will do as he pleases.
If you look at verse 13, but he answered one of them and said, "Friend, I do thee no wrong." This is actually anti-socialism, because in a socialist mindset, what they would want is an equal level and equal effort, right? But the idea here is, even though you might try to argue for that one, this is totally anti-socialism. You can see the unfairness here. You see an unfairness right here where it's the person with an equal amount of working hours is not the same as the person who has the basically the person who doesn't have the equal amount of working hours all of a sudden end up with the same equal amount of pay, right? So that sounds very unfair. That's not really socialist. That's totally unfair. Why? Because it's the right of the owner to do what he wants with his money.
So the king will do as he pleases, and he will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will speak monstrous things against the God of gods. And now, doesn't that just sound like Goliath from the Philistines? Because didn't David come up against Goliath because of the fact that he was speaking blasphemous words? Just sounds similar. The things against the God of gods, and he will prosper until the indignation is finished, for that which is decreed will be done. He will show no regard for the gods of his fathers or for the desire of women. So the women, the women, the women that no regard for the women, but he will exalt himself above them all. The women that love where is that at again? But instead he will honor a god of fortresses. Okay, so he so he will honor a god of fortresses.
That China will be the next world's superpower, and that Israel was done with America.
So Israel's done with America, and then he is honoring the god of fortresses, the god of forces, the god of war, a God whom his fathers did not know. He will honor him with gold and silver and costly stones and treasures, and he will take action against the strongest of fortresses with the help from a foreign god. He will give great honor to those who acknowledge him and will cause them to rule over many. and will parse that land for a price. So that's when the 10 kings give the power unto the beast, then when you're looking at it in this interpretation here, he will give great honor to those who acknowledge him, like the 10 kings, according to the script, and will cause them to rule over many for 1 hour. At the end time, the king of the south, so the king of the south will collide with him. So the king of the south, and then
So, hey, let's just face it. Now we're starting to see it all pan out. Everything is going to play exactly to what they were doing.
will storm against him with chariots, horsemen, many ships, and he will enter countries, overflow and pass over. So if this is the son of perdition, and there's only one lost, and the son of perdition believes nothing else other than he's going to get all the power and all the riches, and it's going to last for the next 42 months instead of 3 days, then this is the part where no one will help him. Because he will also enter the beautiful land, and many countries will fall. But these will be rescued out of his hand, Edom, Moab, and the foremost sons of Ammon. Then he will stretch out his hand against the country, other countries, and the land of Egypt will not escape. But he will gain control over the hidden treasures of gold and silver.
Yeah, China is going to be the new world superpower. It's going to become the economic stronghold. You'll get a
So he, representing China, Kim Jong, superpower, Dr. Kim Jong, because he is from the West. I just didn't know how literal this was going to be, but again, I don't really think it's just one fulfillment. I think with with this side over here, playing it as literal as possible, because Kim Jong is over here in the West. He makes it clear every time San Jose in the title. That way you know he's from California. If you died tonight, would you be in heaven or hell? And then how literal is it where when you die and you don't believe Skip, and then next thing you know you're down in the bottomless pit, and it's like, hey, oh shit, hell is real. Hell is real. And or it's like you're up in heaven. You weren't really like, do I believe I'm going to heaven or hell when I die? I believe I'm going back to the source that created me. So wherever I was before I was born on this earth is where I'm going to go back to. Now, but how literal is it? Is it just purely spirit, like when you dream? Or is it literally you die and then your body is dead and they wait until they do the autopsy and then they pull your brain out, or they pull like your soul box. You know how there's like a black box in an airplane, even if it crashes and burns, it's still going to be saved. So maybe there's like something, I don't know, do they shove it up your brain when you're a child because you're already screaming when you're born and they can't hear any other difference? And that's what they take out of your body at the autopsy. But you stay dead for 3 days in that dead body, and then once they take that out, then they literally transport you to heaven up in the air, and then they put you into a new, like a new, brand new, cloned, perfect body that doesn't ever deteriorate. I don't know. I'll find out when I die where I actually go. But in the meantime, I feel like we're already here. But this needs to come down to here, or this needs to come down to earth, and hell needs to be resurrected to earth. That way, hell is resurrected, and heaven comes down to earth, right here in the middle, the Vesica Pisces, where we're at. Because I do think there's a hell literally down there. But also, as we're living on this earth here, life is a living hell when, just the way the system is, it just sucks. So how literal is it? He goat from the west, prove yourself a man. So that would refer to when Saul was saying that, like to a woman, like prove yourself to be a man. So he will gain control over the hidden treasures of gold and silver. But we're talking about hidden. When you talk about hidden, that's like hidden knowledge, hidden language. But let's just say it's actual gold and silver over the precious things of Egypt. Sometimes I don't know how real any of these sounds are out here. And over the precious things of Egypt, and Libyans and Ethiopians will follow at his heels. Libyans and the Cushites shall follow in his train. Cushites in submission shall be at his steps. So that's at the very end. It's coming up here. It feels like it's coming up. But rumors from the east and from the north. So even if you're looking at like the east side of, all right, so if you want to talk about it literally, I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's on the east side of the United States. Kim lives on the west side of the United States, in San Jose, according to the script. And then from the north, it would be, well, who's going to rule? Who's the one that is from heaven? And who's the one that gave there was no competition whatsoever. So China just got, Goliath got everything, got whatever it was until somebody can fight with him. And if nobody can fight with him, then he gets the contract.
A one world government. So yeah, Russia over there in Ukraine.
Hold on.
Stronghold, you'll get a one world government. So yeah, Russia over there in Ukraine is no different either. They're only playing their part, putting
I know, it's all script.
all the ducks in a row, if you were.
You mean like these ducks? Where those turtle doves are, and those frogs. And the fish.
And soon you'll have a one world religion as well. We're going to really get into that one world religion thing because I've been part of the Hebrew University Society for quite some time, the biblical studies there, and I have been watching them really get into making sure everybody believes that Jesus is a Jew.
Oh, you mean like a real Jew, not like the true inward Jew, but like a nationality Jew is what you're saying. So the rumors from the east and the north will disturb him.
I mean, why can't you enjoy the fleshly things that the Lord has given to you?
Come on, brother. That's good stuff.
What's your problem, man? What's your problem? I'm going to eat every ounce of it. I'm going to eat every enjoyment. You know why? Because look at verse 17. The Lord don't give it to you every day. Pleases your flesh. The excitement,
the thrill, socializing with other people, and etc. Don't worry, you'll get your lonely time with the Lord, trust me. Don't worry, you'll get your hardships, trust me. The Lord will give it to you. Why do you have to create a false one for yourself? You're going to have to expect the unexpected.
That's right.
Not expect the expected.
Yeah. Amen.
When you live your life that way, then you won't be depressed and discouraged.
Amen.
Because if the devil attacks, then what do I do? Do I have to get discouraged and cry, or do I have to say, this is what's going to happen?
Right.
No, it's normal. I expected this unexpected thing. When I do that, then I'd have more peace about it.
Amen. Amen.
But I'll definitely have no peace if I expect something good's going to happen without the devil ruining it.
But rumors from the east and from the north will disturb him, and he will go forth with great wrath to destroy and annihilate many.
Ruining it. This is going to go the way that I plan things. No, it's going to be ruined. And then when it gets ruined, then what are you going to do? Cry and scream and tear your hair? Or are you going to say, this is normal, and I'm going to trust God and keep doing it? Because when's the last time God ever let you down?
That's right. Come on.
Oh, did you ever prove God wrong? Hey, didn't he always prove himself true?
Yes.
Then why not trust him after that and just keep going?
Trust him.
Trust him. What's the problem here? Why do they not keep? Why are the dates not being shown? This was like 6 months ago. Bible history. 6, 7 months ago. Yeah, because this fleshly preaching. It's right this is when I first started to get on Kim back in June 2021. And then this is the video here. So 8 months ago, explosion in the church.
A thief because you're stealing crowns.
Well, that's true.
Okay, and you are the devil incarnate.
Indeed. Amen.
Months ago.
All right, if you want to explode the church, then when the devil attacks you, you know what you do? You embrace it. And then you take it in, and you learn how to better manage and control it. And then when you do that, then you're going to explode the church even higher. You know what I do? You know, whenever the devil attacks, you know, I get mad at the devil, right? Like, I get really, really mad at the devil. I'm like, why don't you leave me alone? But he won't leave me alone. And I'm like, you know what? If you're going to attack me that day, I'm just going to preach a better sermon, all right?
Yeah. One up over the devil.
I'm going to learn from this suffering. And maybe the devil will just get on my back a bit.
Amen.
That was the beginning of
A liar.
which is you.
A thief because you're stealing crowns.
Well, that's true.
Okay, and you are the devil incarnate, and your time is short. You worthless piece of smokeless fire.
So I'm considered the devil because I was doing the video with
Running in their free will, so I have to make them a robot. No, the Lord's not that weak. All right, let's go to Genesis
He's not that weak.
4.
back on June 24th, 2021. I forget exactly what it was, but something clicked on my spirit and said, next of Kim, I'm going to have to, because he was being very blatant, reminding me of the way Goliath was talking, saying, whatever, if, forget what he said, something like, if you, who was he talking to? So if he's the Philistines, the army, Philistines, and then the camp of Israel, who was, hold on here, Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites another, with the valley between them. So the Philistines and the Israelites with a valley in between them. Either way, that was the reason why. And then I started looking. I looked back at Kim's video list and I seen about Robin Hood. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I watched that, and he was like this, talking about people from that, that back in that day there, because I was just waking up, and it's a good thing I went in Kim's direction, because if he's that tyrant from the West, that's all I want to do is find the people that are playing the script out, because I've fluctuated juxtapositions back and forth with even the tyrant from the West, and talking about, because Kleck's face is here on the West, like that. And then the angel of the bottomless pit would have to be the one above him. And that looks like, so if you go with the angel of the bottomless pit being the king of the south, because if you're looking from the very highest part of the earth, Google Maps, you're up here and you're the king of the north. Then you come down and you look at the landscape, and you're looking for Skip being the king of the south down here, running things as like Saul. Then the rumors from the east.
This very first clip. Kim. Hi, Kim, Jean, Dr. Kim. It's nice to meet you.
From the east and the north.
Yeah, the dollar will collapse. And, what can I say?
You said exactly what I said somebody would say, because they needed to say it at the time that it was supposed to be said.
Went out.
I need a liar. And then you stand up and I'll do it, because you're going to tell people that the dollar is going to collapse, and you need
April 22nd, 2022, and then April 23rd, 2022.
Yeah, the dollar will collapse. And, what can I say? Israel's buying the Chinese yuan.
Israel. So you're Israel. Buying the Chinese yuan.
How many of you went through a suffering and then you're going to preach a better sermon, all right?
Yeah, man. One up of the devil.
I'm going to learn from this suffering. And maybe the devil will just get off my back a bit.
Amen.
Nope, not until you give up. Or he will pitch his tents of the royal pavilion between the seas and the beautiful holy mountain, yet he will come to his end and no one will help him. So there you go. It looks like if I want to take this thing literal, I live in the east of the United States. Kim lives in the west of the United States. Skip lives in the bottomless pit area. There he is. He has his own area here. And then you're not even from this planet. In other words, if you're from heaven up here, then you're from the north, and then you're going to fight with the king of the south. So you and him are going to fight together. Tidings out of the east. Of the United States. I'm over here in the east. There's rumors spreading over in this side of the United States. Him is over here somewhere from the west. The tyranny from the west, somewhere in, I don't know, like San Jose areas, somewhere in this around here. And then that news from the east is going to trouble him. That comes from also from the north.
I'm going to learn from this suffering. And maybe the devil will just get off my back a bit.
You never had any competition, huh, Kim?
Much competition, and they got the contract for that as well. All of this part of that Silk Road Initiative. But I was told then that China will be the next world's superpower and that Israel was done with America.
You're done with America, but not really, though. China is going to be the next world power, but only for a few days. Because his job is to do exactly what God needs him to do. Gain control over all of the hidden treasures of gold and silver, all the precious things of Egypt. And that's what'll happen. So when that happens, at that time, Michael the great prince, who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise, and there will be a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation even until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. And then I can see this as SGD with the book of Gematria and people's names being written in there being the way that, because maybe this is the super literal and it's literally what's going to happen. There's Michael and then there's Gabriel. And it sounds like someone is talking, saying, "Hey, Gabriel, you help Daniel understand the vision." So who would that be? The angel of the bottomless pit? Is that you, Skip? Are you telling him that to do that? Because many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground will awake, these to everlasting life, but the others to disgrace and everlasting contempt. Because Saul, at the time, didn't his three of his sons die at Mount Gilboa, like where Rocky Balboa is? Like Mount Rocky Balboa, right here, here, right there. I got your back, Rocky.
The story ended in 1 Samuel where King Saul, Israel's first king, had fallen in a battle on Mount Gilboa, slain by the enemy.
This was back on January 17, 2019, 6 months before I even started to go into Jonathan Kleck's direction.
Not only Saul, but Saul's sons, not all of them, but 3 of them on Mount Gilboa.
The 3 of them, 3 of his sons, meaning Saul, and so if you're looking at, if your face is implanted into the landscape of the earth, then, and you've been defeated with your 3 sons at Mount Rocky Balboa, like the boa constrictor, serpent, Rocky Balboa, boa constrictor, the serpent, then your 3 sons would be right here, right? Wouldn't they be right there? Wouldn't that be Decimus, Gestus, and Jesus being played out in this system here?
A messenger goes all the way to the camp of David to give David the news to announce that King Saul had died.
So David went from shepherd living livestock to serving as God's sovereign king of Israel. His faith and obedience assured him military and political victory as one by one he defeated Israel's enemies. In this flight, we both celebrate David's successes and identify his failures as we get to know this man whom God called a man after my own heart. So I've been trying to find out who David is in this world script, because according to the Bible, even before I even showed up on YouTube, David was already in place. Jesus was already there. The disciples were there. Peter, John, and James were there. Everybody was already there. But that's being played out literally. And then what happens is the spiritual side of it takes place as well. And then that helps fulfill the literal side, where there would be a King David. And maybe Bathsheba was, like he slept with Uriah's wife, Uriah, and he killed Uriah. Now, if he killed Uriah and he slept with his wife, then what if that really meant that he took, like, because when you're husband and wife and with the host body system, you're just one person, but your husband and your wife, your mate, your soulmate, your wife is with you, inside of you. And what if, or outside, or what if that portion was David slept with Uriah's wife and had a child? And so with the male female system, you put that, let's just say that was Uriah's at one point, and that was his wife. And then David in this system took that, slept with Bathsheba, had a baby, and then tried to cover it up because this implant system here. And it's like Bathsheba, because when David was up top of his roof, and he was looking down, well, if he was looking down here, I don't know, it kind of looks like a bathtub, doesn't it? If you're up on the roof looking down, and it is Water is, it is a fountain. So let's just say he's over here and he's looking out. You can see the entire city skyline everywhere from the roof. So with David being the second king in this literal landscape, and with Jonathan Kleck's face looking like Adam sleeping with his headphones on, hair like a woman, then his boss would be Saul. But I'm not convinced that this Saul, is actually Paul. Maybe his son Jonathan is actually Paul in this um, side of fulfillment, because I feel like there's House of Judah, House of Israel. I feel like Paul's over here and Paul's over there. And Peter's over there and Peter's over there. And 144 over in the House of Israel, 144 in the House of Judah. And then David, the true David gets an army of 288 in the end, because he brings both sides together, both sides from this 2 mile stretch from end to end. And he gets both of the armies.
It says, how the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Speaking of his friend Jonathan. Jonathan was slain in your high places, speaking of Mount Gilboa.
And it doesn't get any clearer than that. I drew a picture of Jonathan Kleck with him, because it looks like him. So I drew it with Jonathan on Mount Gilboa, the rocky Balboa steps, the old famous movie, him running the steps, being slain. You can only be slain if you are discovered. And then Jonathan loved David as his own soul, and he was telling him that his father, Saul, here, was looking to kill him. Because with the Gang Stalking Corporation, as soon as you wake up, Saul's looking to kill you. He's looking to kill your spirit in just giving up. Because if you commit suicide, he killed you. There's no evidence whatsoever. But the fact that people commit suicide from gang stalking, that would mean that Saul was the one responsible for killing you. But he sent his son Jonathan after, as well as the top military commander also. But Adam was sleeping, because you see his eyes are closed, fell into a deep sleep. And got eaten by the serpent. The other serpent, Adam and Eve, are in the garden.
And it was one of the central areas in Judah. So he goes there because there he is going to be coronated the king, not of the nation right now, but the king of Judah. So in chapter 2, verse 4, then the men of Judah came, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah. And they told David, the men of Jabesh Gilead were the ones who buried Saul.
The house of Judah, Judah, even though there's Judeans, but the house of Judah, well, wouldn't that be this house here? Because on the other side, you have the house of Israel. So first, it's the house of Judah. So first, it's the house of Judah. So first, it's the house of Israel. So first, it's the house of Israel. So first, it's the house of Judah. 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 So first, it's the house either way, what David, his task is to bring both of the houses together.
David has 3 anointings. You say, well, wait a minute, I've read the Bible, he only has 2. No, read the fine print. First was a private coronation. That was that day he was almost overlooked by his father. When Samuel went to the house of Jesse, and finally David came in, and there Samuel poured that horn of oil over David and anointed him as the next king. It's not till now.
So it's like Samuel and Jesse correlated together.
The dollar will collapse, and
to let people know, and then
that he gets his first public coronation. So this is the second one. One was a private one. This is the first public one. He will have a third, and that will be ordained and crowned the king over all of Israel. So he's in Hebron, the southern kingdom, remember that's down south, of Judah. They recognize him as the king, but it's not a done deal yet. Saul died, and 3 of his sons died with him, but not all of his sons died, and there is one who is left by the name of Ishbosheth. Ishbosheth. He is still alive, and a guy by the name of Abner, I'll get to him in a moment, crowns him as king over the 11 tribes. Now, there are a couple people in this.
You guys are in for deep, 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 deep trouble. By the way, Robin, nerd. Yeah. Anyway.
So that's why you called me a nerd.
Name of Abner, I'll get to him in a moment, crowns him as king over the 11 tribes. Now, there are a couple people in this book we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but I'll mention them because they're important. One is named Joab, the other is named Abner. And you'll see them at conflict throughout this book. Joab was the commander-in-chief of David's army. Abner.
It's funny because it's like, what if all this was, what if everything that was being done, I'm just the last to know about it, and I feel like so when I learn things, hey man, look, check this out, I can't believe I just found, and the reality is everybody else is like, yeah, it's about time. Well, and meanwhile, I'm feeling good about things I've learned, and everybody else is like, it's about freaking time you woke up, stupid. As he's pointing down here, because I wasn't sitting at the right hand down here in this area back in 2019. I was still just, I think, recording like this with a cell phone, recording, not knowing how to do screen shares.
Abner was the commander-in-chief of Saul's army, and because...
So if Abner was the commander-in-chief of Saul's army, then because Saul would be at the top of the list, and then the army, the commander would be right here.
Saul is dead, doesn't want to lose his job or his position, so he takes somebody from the house of Saul that is Ishbosheth and said, you're the next king. Now, a conflict begins. A 7-year conflict, the first civil war in Israel between David in the south and Ishbosheth, son of Saul, in the north. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But here's a key revelation. David grew stronger and stronger. And the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. So now Abner, commander-in-chief of Saul and Ishbosheth, Abner sees the handwriting on the wall, so to speak. He knows that this isn't going to work out, that all of Israel is not going to stand behind Ishbosheth, the son of Saul. So he wants to negotiate with David a peaceful handover of the kingdom to him. So he wants to negotiate with David a peaceful handover of the kingdom to him. So now, after 7 years, after David has been 7 years king in Judah, David manages to unite the nation, north and south, and he is made king over all.